So I'm going to go through two different types of problems that we're going to do, and this is really the last thing we're going to do on quadratics for a while, so it's kind of exciting that we get to move on next week, and we're going to combine the two things we learned this week. So here's an example where it says, what are the roots of the equation 16x squared plus 64x plus 65 equals 0 in simplest a plus bi form? So this goes back to the complex numbers that we just learned about on Monday. Okay, so I'm going to show you how we do this. Because it's a quadratic, and I know it's a quadratic because it has the x squared in it, I'm going to use the quadratic formula as a method to solve this. You could also do completing the square, or if you want to try factoring, go for it. Quadratic formula is the best way because it always works, and that's why it's really nice. So the first thing we do is make sure it's equal to 0, and it's equal to 0 already, so I don't have to do anything there. Then I'm going to say what a equals, b equals, and c. So a is equal to 16, b is equal to 64, and c is equal to 65. Okay, the third step, I'm just plugging it in. So you have x equals negative b, which is 64, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 a c. Oh, make sure that goes over. All over 2a. Okay, so the next thing we want to do now is figure out what's inside of that square root. So I just take my calculator, and in my calculator, I put 64 squared minus 4 times 16 times 25, and I do not put the square root. And I get negative 64. So I bring everything down. X equals negative here times 64 is negative 64, plus or minus the square root. And when I put that in my calculator, I got negative 64 all over, oops, I put 2a instead of plugging in what a was. And a is 16, my bad. Okay, and 2 times 16 is 32. So I put that on the bottom. Okay, this is going to be now what we learned about simplifying negative radicals. So 64 is a perfect square, so I just split it up. 64 and negative 1. The square root of 64 is 8, and we learned that the square root of negative 1 is represented by I. So I just rewrite this. Negative 64 plus or minus 8i over 32. And now we just want to separate, okay, because both of these get divided by 32. So we have negative 64 divided by 32, plus or minus, and 8i divided by 32. So I say, can 64 be divided by 32 evenly? Oh, it can. Well, that's just negative 2, plus or minus. This can't be divided, 8 by 32. But both of those numbers, I think, what can go into the top and bottom? And I can divide 8 on top and 8 on bottom. So I'm simplifying the fraction. So I get 1i over 32 divided by 8 is going to give us 4. And that's how I'm going to enter my answer. So negative 2 plus or minus 1i over 4. So I put it in, negative 2. They have the plus or minus sign. What was it? It was 1i, 1. I know that they have I here somewhere. There it is. I push shift to get that. Over 4. Great. Okay, we're going to do one other type of problem, and that's going to be it. So here, okay, I'm going to just get us a problem. Let's see if there's any that have. Here we go. Just so in case you encounter one like this that's a little bit more difficult, I want to show you how to do it. So here it says solve the equation for all values of x in simplest form. We're going to use the completing the square method, but it's halfway done for us, so we only have to do the last part. Make sure that you took notes on this first part. Feel free to pause the video and write this all down. Okay, I'm just erasing real quick. Okay, and it was x minus 4 squared equals negative 25. So we're really starting at, I believe it's the fourth step in the completing the square method. And that's going to be where we take the square root of both sides. And don't forget to put plus or minus in front. So we square root and we square root. The reason we're doing this is because I want to cancel out the squared, and the inverse of square is square root. So those are going to cancel out. That would leave me with just x minus 4. This is going to help me get x by itself. Plus or minus, and now we simplify just like we practiced. The square root of negative 25. It's a perfect square, so I just do 25 and negative 1. The square root of 25 is 5, and the square root of negative 1 is I. So I put that in right here, 5i. One last step to get x by itself is to solve, so we just add 4 to both sides. Cancels out, and x is equal to positive 4 plus or minus 5i. And those are the two things that you're going to be practicing. Not too bad. You got this. Have fun.